Welcome back to another edition of the creating. I say it every day, so I've said it now 5 times in a row. I keep forgetting it. The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. You'd think that I would remember it a little easier, but I only have so much space in this noggin, and obviously it's not storing itself properly. I thought today's was really great. I only read 2 inserts because I paused because it's just like too much in these 2 little inserts in relation to how I've experienced it. So before we get started, I want to say thank you, God, for this day. Thank you, God, for this opportunity to be great. Ask that you take a second to reflect on your own journey, reflect on how far you've come. Remember that your patience, your efforts, no matter how big or small, are continuously moving you forward to the goal that you're getting. And as scary as it is all the time, to wake up each day trying to attempt to achieve those goals, that's a part of the process. It's always scary. I've said it many times throughout my own journey as I reflect, and I'm aware of that we go through a lot of pain and struggle in trying to achieve the goal that we want, no matter what that goal is and what it's for. It's going to take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of energy, a lot of pain to get it. And once you get it, then you'll understand why it was so necessary for you to go through all those things. You get molded, you grow, and you become a better person, and you're stronger once you achieve that goal. There's a lot of things that come with achieving a goal that you're not necessarily seeing, and all that preparation to get there helps you. And then sometimes a bunch of stuff happens that you couldn't ever prepare yourself for, and you fail again. You fail again. That's a part of the goal process. So I thought today's chapters, he talks about crafting and he talks about momentum, and both of them seem very mysterious in regards to what he actually talks about. So I was kind of like, okay, maybe I'm not going to take away too much from this, but today I did what I should have been doing the whole time, which is I highlight. A lot of times when I read books, I will highlight things that are important to me, and I hadn't done it up to this point. So every time I was doing these videos, I was trying to paraphrase or try to go back and look in real time at things that I thought were good ideas when I was reading them, and I could never find them. You're on the spot trying to find stuff. So highlight the book. I own it, mess it up, so the next person that goes along maybe sees some of the points that I see. So highlight books. It's okay. They're yours to go back and experience. So he talks about crafting, and the idea of crafting is now you stop. He had previously spoke about planting seeds, and then once the seed starts you collect enough seeds, you start to experiment with certain seeds. You start, meaning once you come up with a bunch of random ideas, they're just coming from everywhere. You start to play with those ideas, you start to nurture them, and all of a sudden they grow into something else that you didn't really see at first, and you're starting to grab a hold of an idea, and you're developing it and moving it forward, and all of a sudden all these other seeds are kind of pushing themselves out the way, and you're not really distracted by these other forms of ideas. And so now we get to a point where okay, we know for sure this idea that we have, this thing that we want, is the thing that we've been searching for, and we are more clearly seeing something. And so we go on this journey of the craft phase, which is what he puts, this is the point of the journey where some struggle to carry on. For now, we need to look away from the open field, meaning all those other ideas, and turn toward a winding staircase 100 stories tall. A long, precarious climb lies ahead. So I clearly could relate to what he meant when, in regards to going back to what I'm going through right now, which is writing my movie. And I keep going back to that because that is a huge goal of mine, and I experience a lot of the things that he's speaking about in real time right now. Meaning that I clearly know what I want my movie to be about. I know a majority of the characters. I know essentially what's happening throughout the whole film in terms of beats. I have all these beats written out. And now is the nitty gritty time, which I'm starting to really craft it and shape it and write dialogue and write the scenes out in terms of actions and what's happening. And this is the struggle. This is like going to be the winding staircase that's 100-story tall. It's going to take forever to get there, but I have to keep taking each step at a time. He says we may be tempted to turn back and chase the thrill of the feeling the light bulb flicker in our heads, which I guarantee you anybody hearing this can relate to that idea of you did all this work to come up with an idea, you kind of see it, and now you're like, okay, this is the monster I created. Do I want to keep nurturing this thing? Do I want to keep growing it, feeding it all this extra energy to make it a stronger, more like clearer thing? Or I actually enjoyed going back and where I can kind of freely think and to let ideas come in and listen to music and kind of be distracted and, have a drink while I'm doing it. And you're just kind of letting the world inspire you somehow, watching shows, watching cartoons, watching, reading things. And all of a sudden, like, you enjoy that process of just letting that light bulb flicker and see a bunch of things come to you. So it's a very like romanticized process that we enjoy, and he's trying to tell you to not be tempted to go back to that process, to like, this is the hard part, the crafting part. Art may only exist and the artist may only evolve by completing the work. So that when I read that, I was like, damn, okay, art may only exist and the artist may only evolve by completing the work. So if I say I'm an artist, or I believe that I'm creating art, until it's actually done, it's not really anything. It's just me like enjoying the process of like thinking I'm an artist until I actually do something for it. And I was just like, okay, shit, I need to shut up and fucking work. He says, if several directions seem captivating, consider crafting more than one experiment at a time. Working on several often brings about healthy sensation of detachment. So this is something that when I read that at first, I was like, I don't know about the idea, and I guess the way I took it was like, if there are a lot of experiments or a lot of ideas that seem really great to you, meaning let's say you have 5 different things you want to do. You want to write a book, you want to start a business in clothing, you want to be an online influencer in fashion. You want to one day, you want to write a TV show. You want to be a music producer. Like, you have all these things that you're like, I really have passion for and I have interest in, and I want to develop. And those are pretty random. Maybe there's like something more narrow, like that's within all the fields. But again, you have all these ideas and things that you're trying to achieve, and he's saying, maybe it could be healthy to work on several at a time. So at first when I read that, I was kind of thinking like, I don't know about that. Like, I have a really hard time juggling multiple things at once, and I am a person that enjoys the focusing and narrowing in on something for a long period of time. And that's how I thought at first. And then he kind of more elaborates, like, when we solely focus on one thing, it's easy to get tunnel vision. When we step away and return with fresh eyes, it brings clearer insight to next steps, which I agree. And this may happen over the course of days, weeks, months, or years. So I'll read this last little bit and kind of give you my thought. There are also times when a single seed has so much power that you could choose to focus on it exclusively, and that is your choice to make. So before, I was thinking like, I'm not, like I said before, like, I'm not a person that really enjoys juggling multiple goals at once. I feel like I've learned myself enough at this point in my life where I'm like, okay, if I want to work on one thing and get it done. And then I've seen myself in the last like maybe year and a half, 2 years, be that person where I come up with like 3 or 4 goals that I want to do. Say my real goal to university, my education. I want to get stronger at being a music video production company, and I want to make my movie. Those are 3 very easily like seen and vision things that I want for myself. I want to be a better business owner. I want to be an educator in video production, and I want to be a movie director. So, I narrowed my vision down to those things, and I was like, okay, I think I understand what I need to do for that. And as time went on, and I tried to pick at some of those things. At first, I started with the education, try to work on that, and I realized it was taking a lot of my time, and I'd get so focused on it, I couldn't figure out a way to now juggle the music video business and my movie. I was like, damn, like I'm not working on these things, and I would stop. Okay, this educational stuff is not really working. I need to do something else. I need to get my focus on what's most important, my movie. So I start writing my movie. I'm starting making it. I'm starting developing it, and then now I get to the point where I'm like, oh shit, I'm so passionate about this movie. I'm getting so far ahead in the movie. I know what I want. I love the story that I'm creating. I feel the energy. I clearly see it. I know this is what I want. And that's still true to right now. And then I look at the music video business. I'm like, oh damn, it's not doing as great as I want it to be doing, because I've not given any of my energy or any of my focus to it. Like I've allowed myself to focus on something that I am truly passionate about, but then something is suffering right within that. The goal to be a better business owner in video production, and that can range from a majority of things, like what that means for me, and what it means to be successful as a production owner. Like what does that mean for me is different than another person, right? So I'm like, damn, okay, I need to focus my energy back into music videos and getting us going. So I do that, but then I find myself being disconcerted or reminded about like what my real goals are in life. And I've said this before, that this is the journey. This is me rediscovering who I am, what I really want, knowing that I've been down a direction, and do I still want that? And so even though I'm doing what I am so grateful for, which is creating my own world, I created my own opportunity, which means I was able to create a world where I can work for myself, and that's one of the hardest parts. So if you're someone out there that is looking to create your own world, you're in that early process of like, I just want to work for myself, and that's my goal. And once you do that, you're like, yes, this is what I've always wanted. I wanted to work for myself. I didn't want to work for nobody else, and I want to be a business quote unquote owner. And through that process, you learn all these other things about being a business owner, and whether or not that's actually what you want. Do you really want employees? Do you really want to have an office? Do you really want to, have all like have recurring clients? Do you really want all these things? And you don't know until you're experiencing it, which is completely fine. That's why being an entrepreneur, being someone that is going to own your own business, is very scary. And it's scary only because you experience so many new things constantly. There's no way that you could ever know unless you sat there and you went and got your business degree. If you didn't go get a business degree, you probably don't know what's to come. So you're experiencing it all in real time. And so it makes sense to why maybe if you had an idea for a business, you would go and get that. But that still doesn't mean that you would experience whatever you're learning in class. You're probably like prompted, but maybe you really don't know what comes with running one. So, and I say that to not like discourage you to want your business. And I'm relating it back to what he's saying in crafting. You get all these feelings of what do I really want with my life. You have a skill set that you define. You define a skill set. That's the hardest part. What am I talented at? What am I passionate about? You define it, right? You see it. You know this is what you're good at. This is what you love. But then the real world keeps you from pursuing it by saying you need to pay these bills. You need to follow this kind of structure of life. If you want to be married or be in a relationship, There's all these defined rules from society and their norms of what makes you a complete person. So you have to really tune that out and shut it off to define it for you and what makes you happy. And answering that deeper question of what is my idea, or what do I really want to spend time on, is a difficult one. So when I think about him saying, again, crafting several versions or several experiments at once, I see it as, yes, that's what I actually did for the last year and a half or 2 years. I try to craft a few things that I thought were very passionate for me, like things that I really do care about genuinely. And I separated my time to try to balance them, and then I would always come back with fresher eyes in each one of those. I would always come back with fresher eyes from a storyteller into music videos, wanting to tell better stories, wanting to pick out better frames, wanting to be a better DP, wanting to express more lighting in that, because I would study so much stuff in my writing. And then with the education, I'm coming back right now. This is me coming back to my education by expressing myself, but I've dumbed it down so much, meaning I'm not over editing. I'm not editing any of this. I'm just recording it and then giving it to you. And it's the information and the conversation that I enjoy sharing with people. And for you to sit here and watch it and to listen to it means that you are looking for something in life. You're looking to elevate yourself somehow. And if because you enjoy the things that I've made, or seeing what I've done, you're willing to listen and hear me out and try to understand from your perspective and take whatever nuggets that you want from my conversation and allow and try to find perspective in your own. And that's what that's what this is. I'm seeing perspective of what he's saying and seeing how that it can push me to remind myself what I need to be doing. So I've returned, like I said, I've returned to a passion of education. Just a conversation for me is more important. I enjoy listening to perspectives of people that I want to and I respect enough to listen to, because that's the world nowadays. It's more of a podcast and you see my face, unedited podcast. I told you that these chapters, I could only talk about a couple of these because it was so much. And my reflection on myself when he said it's a craftsman, you have to spend the time to develop whatever idea that you have, and that time could be longer than you think. I was spending months on each one, and I'll reflect after three months or so. Okay, every quarter I would look back and see what I did and realize, okay, was that the best use of my time? And then what did I gain from doing that? What did I learn? And maybe you don't gain anything other than the failure lessons. So in the remainder of that chapter, he says, remain open to doing whatever it takes to make art as good as it can be, whether this means inserting yourself more into the details of the process or stepping further back from them. I will say that he started to talk about earlier, before he says that, about some artists, in terms of the craft phase, may only want to be the person that gives the idea, and maybe they don't even want to and develop the story, but maybe they don't even want to do the writing, or they don't want to do the hard work of getting it made all the way through, and that is their decision as an artist. So let's say you're let's just put it in terms of video production. You're someone that comes up with creative ideas. You're a creative, maybe you're just not even a writer, but maybe you're a creative director, creative producer, or creative storyteller. You come up with a bunch of creative ideas that you think are really cool. You maybe don't even have the full vision, and he puts it in perspective of then you give that to someone else that then fleshes it out, and you kind of have to be okay with what evolves from that at that point. If someone comes up with an idea that takes that idea and then develops it to something else, that you have to be okay with, because you've given it to them, So that's what he says, to remain open to doing what it takes to make the art as good as it can be, whether it means inserting yourself with the more details, evolving it, or just stepping back and letting someone else do it. An artist may feel it's necessary to be involved in all the work. The physical act of crafting may give them a greater understanding of the art and more direct control over the details. And I relate that to myself. I definitely am someone that I enjoy the creative stage, the writing, the designing of the treatment. I enjoy looking at the numbers of how much it's going to cost. Like, can we get this down? Or we're not investing enough in a certain area. And then I enjoy the process of like, okay, now it's pre-production. Let's like really define what it's going to look like for real. Scouting the locations, taking pictures of the locations, taking, shot listing, building my shot list, building my animatic or what I think the video might look like, directing, DPing, lighting. I enjoy looking at wardrobe now. I enjoy looking at the hair and makeup. I don't know exactly how to make it the best, but I enjoy seeing what that is. I enjoy learning about producing and like ADing when it comes to how you need to structure your day to get the most out of your day, or maybe we're over scheduling ourselves from a production standpoint. Like, this is no way we're gonna get this done. We shouldn't even like be thinking like this. I enjoy those kind of details. I enjoy knowing why on the production day we didn't get something done. Like, what was the problems to why we didn't get it done. And then in post-production, I enjoy the editing. I enjoy seeing the process of the editing, and I enjoy hearing collaboration notes back now. Like, I'm not a editor that, oh, this is how it needs to be. For me, I love the beginning of it. Now let's evolve it some more, get notes, hear out what those notes are, how can it be better, and I share that with a few different people to hear their intake. And then I enjoy the coloring process, seeing color, like how the color affects it directly, and learning like how to be a better colorist myself. And in the very end, I like seeing people respond to it. Like, how are people going to take it? I like reading comments, and I like seeing like what people took away from it. Did they even recognize the video? They even see some of the details I put? Okay, they didn't. They just liked the song. Like, oh shit, I guess, did I do my job correctly? They like the song. Did I do my job correctly? Like, did they like the video at all? So I'm very much a person that likes the entire process of like how to be better at something and the details of it. He talks about crafting can be daunting. It's helpful to think of it as another opportunity for play. And that could soften a lot of that stuff. Like, instead of looking at it as a chore, look at it as you playing and like enjoying the process of the journey you're on, enjoying the process of being that artist. So I thought that crafting one is he mentioned it earlier in another chapter about the idea there's a difference between the artist and the craftsman, and the craftsman's like the person that puts it together, designs it, like builds it, brick by brick, and the artist is the one that's like coming up with a lot of the ideas and like the thoughts about how, like, what are we actually making. So maybe this next process will go a little bit sooner, a little quicker, I should say. But again, before I get into it, I want to say thank you so much for you guys to listen and pay attention to the things that I'm saying, and giving me your time and your energy. It really does mean a lot. And one day I will develop a way to educate people in a higher quality way. I've already made content like that, and I know that for me it's more about like how I'm spending my time. So you sitting here spending time with me means a lot, and I wish you the best in all your journey. It's a scary one, but it's something that like I've learned to appreciate and love more, and just have faith that whatever I'm going to get comes through time and persistence and belief, and really trusting like how I feel inside. So he talks about momentum. He says once we craft, he says When treated like the earlier phases with no boundaries or time constraints, the craft phase may extend longer than necessary. He says once enough data is collected and the vision is clear, it can be helpful to set deadlines for a completion. Which is scary, now you got deadlines, right? You got to get something done in a certain time. Now, when it's our personal things, I think we set our own deadlines, which is very damaging because we're going to take as much time as we want. You know how it is. Shout out to Great Value Hydrate Alkaline Water. In the craft phase, deadlines are suggested completion dates rather than set in stone. He says, while crafting, an artist might while crafting, an artist might reach to outside pressure to set a fixed release date for their project. Preparations are made, outsiders are notified. So you get to a point in your art where you're like, hey guys, look at my art, like look what I'm creating, and I think I'm about done with this. And you start to kind of like let other people get involved in it. And man, this reminds me directly of like musicians when they start reaching out to their managers in the show or the labels, and they start showing them their music that they've been creating behind closed doors. And then now they're getting excited. They're wanting to know, when can we release this? And they start developing their own stuff. They said the artist's goal is to not merely, they say, and before I say that, they do say like when you start to notify people from the outside, that's when things can start to get it could start to get a little bit compromising in the result. Because if you're not completed, if you're not done with whatever you're making, then those outside pressures, those outside influences are going to start to kind of pick at it and put thoughts into it before you even have something that you really want. And that will, whether you know it or not, influence your final piece. He says the artist's goal is not merely to produce, but to make the finest work they are capable of. So a reminder that the business thinks in terms of quarterly earnings and production schedules. The artist thinks in terms of timeless excellence. I think that I've experienced that through my own friends that make music, and people that, and even myself, like whenever you think about the business too much, like how you're going to make the money from it, then you're affecting directly like the result of what it actually is supposed to be. And so I try my hardest to stay. I've known that like the business side is the scariest side. It's important for your livelihood, but it's the scariest side because it can directly affect the way that something is created, and you should never ever allow that to creep in. The business and the art are so far apart in how you make a decision that I don't know, like people don't understand that, especially people that are in only the business side. He mentions to create our best work, we are patient and avoid rushing the process, while at the same time we work quickly without delay. By remaining too long in this phase, many pitfalls may arise. One is disconnection. I know people that have experienced this too. If an artist is creating a beautiful work and keeps endlessly crafting it beyond the need, sometimes they suddenly want to start all over. This can be because they've changed or times have changed. And I know I've heard this so many times from people when you hear a record from somebody and it's so good and you're like, oh my God, like you got to release this. Like, why is this not going on your project? And a lot of times they're saying, well, this is how I felt in the moment of recording it, but I don't feel like that anymore, and from an outside perspective, we as people receiving it, the audience that's receiving it, don't care about the fact that the artist doesn't feel like that anymore. They just hear the final product or see something visually, whether it's video or music or paintings. You're like, you always, or photography, you're like, why haven't you shown this to the world, or why haven't you given it to them? And we as artists sometimes think, because I'm not feeling this way anymore, right? I don't have this intention anymore. But in the moment, I urge people when they hear this, any artist that hears this, to really push themselves to understand that you created something in a time that you felt a certain way, which gave the energy to create something that's so amazing that will influence another person in their life, in their moment. Whatever you experience in that moment, whether it's sadness, hopelessness, depression, happiness, excitement, whatever you experienced in that moment to make that thing, someone else is experiencing it right now, and they want to connect to your work by listening or viewing the thing that you created in yours. And that's where we connect with people. That's how we evolve the world. That's how we change things, by allowing ourselves to, even if we don't feel the way we felt when we make it, to go ahead and release it. He says, art is a reflection of artist's inner and outer world during the period of creation. Extending the period complicates the artist's ability to capture a state of being. Release the music, release the videos, release the writing, release the photos. He talks about demo-itis. And I, for some reason, heard of demo-itis in a different way, but this is how he defines it. Demo-itis happens when an artist has clung too tightly for too long to their first draft. He says a musician might quickly record a demo of a song very quickly. Sorry, I'll reread that. A musician might record a demo of a song very quickly. They could listen to it thousands of times and imagine developing it to all it can be. Yet when it comes time to actually make the best version of the song, the demo may be so ingrained in their head that any changes to it seem blasphemous. When we become overly attached to a premature version of the work, we do a disservice to the project's potential. I'll just keep going before I give thoughts. To avoid demo-itis, there is a simple technique. Unless actively working to make something better, avoid listening to it, reading it, playing it, looking at it, or showing it to friends. Work as far forward as you can while crafting, and then step away without repeatedly consuming the unfinished work. By accepting the work in progress as the standard version, we leave room for growth, change, and development to continue. I took that as one of the greatest tips that I could think of, even for myself, when you create that first version, to not keep watching the first version over and over again because you fall in love with it somehow. And this happens to me in editing all the time. I'll see a first version and be like, oh, this is great. But a lot of times I'll watch it. I'll watch it enough to like, okay, I don't know what else to correct. And then I go to bed, wake up the next day, watch it, and I see all these problems. Like, okay, I'm going to go back and fix these. And I fix the initial ones. And then all of a sudden, as I'm fixing that, I come up with other ideas. I start to change it, and at some point I get to a process where I'm like, okay, well, I don't know what else to change. And then I sleep on it. And I get up, I see it again. I'm like, oh, there's these issues that I'm feeling now. And I attempt to maybe evolve it by making it faster or slower. And then I get to a point where I'm just overall happy. Send it to somebody and try to get their notes and their feedback. And sometimes they don't give me direct feedback. They might even sleep on it and then give me their notes the next day. Try to hear them over the phone, try to do some kind of live Discord of some sort, or like Zoom meeting, so you could like show them things and like actually see what they're talking about. I can't get perspective on as a musician, because I don't know, but I definitely have heard this from, again, friends where they talk about how they get stuck on certain songs so they like them so much. One of my friends, Shaq Gonzo, he calls demo-itis when he's watching so many drafts of the video. He is referred to demo-itis, and I have to ask him if this is how he interpreted it. But for some reason, when I heard him say demo-itis, I always thought it meant like you're making so many drafts that you don't know which draft is the best draft anymore. You know, that's how I thought demo-itis was at first. You made like 8, 9, 10, 12 different versions of this thing, and you don't really know which one's the best. That's how I thought demo-itis was before, but not saying that's how he thought, but that's how I perceived it to be. So, but yeah, I mean, I've been in that version too, where I make so many versions of something that I like them in the moment, and then like I'm not really sure which one I like anymore. It happens to me a lot in editing. Another impediment, I'll go on and finish this chapter. This video's a little longer than normal, so thank you for bearing with me. Another impediment some come across is that their version for work exceeds their ability to manifest it, which I know people experience that too. The idea that you have this big vision and you actually don't have the capability of like making it come to life. In these moments, it's easier to feel discouraged. So we're like, damn, like I have this big vision, I want to do it this way, but I can't because I don't have this money, I don't have the resources, and you start just like beating yourself up on it. He goes on to say, falling short of grander versions might actually put the work exactly where it needs to be, which I think is a beautiful thought. And I've said it before in a couple of different videos where I think it's great going back to the AD scheduling, or going back to like shot listing, or going back to like making yourself reach for the stars, because you're going to fall short anyways. I think that's like how maybe he's speaking about it. You have this big grand vision, you want to reach for it, but you don't, and it ends up being something else, which actually he claims to be where it's supposed to be. He goes on to say, when you're on a roll in the craft phase, work toward a full first draft. Maintain the momentum. If you reach a section of the work that gives you trouble, instead of letting this blockage stop you, work around it, which is a fucking amazing like advice. A bridge is easier to build when it's clear what's on the other side. So we find the ending before we find the middle, maybe. Or we find like maybe we don't know what the beginning is, but we know what the middle and end are. He says the more the work you can see, the easier it becomes to gracefully place the final detail. The more of the work you can see, the easier it becomes to gracefully place the final details clearly where they belong. Again, the only way I can relate to that is being an edit, and then all of a sudden I don't know what like is supposed to go at this hook, or maybe I don't know what's supposed to, I don't really know the hook visually, but I know what the verses are, so I build those out and edit, or I build out the ending possibly, or maybe I don't even know what the ending is, and I start to play around with it. I just like add some shots in the back end, see if they work, and then all of a sudden when I see them start to become stronger, then I'm like, okay, now I know where my pacing is. I know that I want to use my shot right there, and I backtrack. So I thought that was a really good idea, a really good suggestion on finding your first draft. Great reminder to just work through it, push through that first draft so that you can work on the second and third versions. So again, thank you so much for listening, for paying attention, for making it all this way. You made it all this way in this video. That's incredible. That's like amazing. So this is a beautiful Sunday. Hope get out, go find something to do. I'm gonna go watch Mad Max, the new Mad Max on IMAX with my wife. Thank you so much again. Until next time, until tomorrow, go be creative, and pick up this book if you don't have it. Rick Rubin. Share me your thoughts and comments, and share this. I need some help. I need some views. Views aren't really why I'm doing it, but wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt to share it. It wouldn't hurt to share it. Thank you guys. Appreciate it.